We say that dogs are man's best friend. They share a bond and love with humans that goes beyond what most would believe. This is the story of Hachi, based on a real-life story. It proves the true meaning of friendship and loyalty. The film, Hachi, was released in 2009. At the beginning of the movie, a kid named Ronnie is asked to do a presentation for his class, and he stands up and says he's going to tell them about his hero Hachi, his grandfather's dog, and explains to the class why they dig a hero. This presentation makes way to start the narrative of the story. A little puppy is brought from Japan to the United States, but the recipe is damaged during the transit and ends up in the Bedridge train station. There Ronnie's grandfather, a music teacher, finds him. It's a cute pup, so he thinks someone might have lost him. After trying to hand it over to the railway station clerk who refuses, Parker, the teacher, decides to bring the puppy home. Once there he tries to hide him from his wife Kate since she didn't want any pets at home, but it takes her no time to find the little doggy as he starts licking her feet in her room. Kate argues with Parker about bringing a dog home, so he has to tell her that he'll bring it back to the station in the morning. She doesn't want the dog inside, so she has Parker take the dog to the shed and settle him there for the night. The next morning, Andy, their daughter, plays with the little doggy and begs her mom to keep it, but she just won't budge about it. She tells her it's just a temporary guest in the house, and will soon have to go as they find the owner. Parker takes the dog to animal control and asks them to keep him, but they don't have enough room to keep the dog there at the moment. He tries a few other options, but he ends up trying to take the dog back to the station. He asks there but nobody has come looking for the dog. Even though they have a policy of no pets on the train, he manages to sneak the dog in and take him to class with him, and introduces the dog to his students and colleagues. Parker takes the dog to meet his Japanese friend Ken, and he tells him that his name is Hachi, and it's from a breed called Akita. Parker asks Ken if he wants to keep the dog, and he refuses. He tells Parker that the dog really wants to be with him. Without other options, and no true owner looking for Hachi, Parker seldom has any option but to bring the puppy back home with him. Kate continues to argue with him about it and forces the dog to sleep in the shed, but that night it starts raining. Hachi keeps looking out the window of the couple's bedroom from a creek in the shed. He's really scared of the thunder and rain. Parker goes to bring him inside the house and sets a box for him to sleep in, and returns to his room, but the dog doesn't want him to go, so he decides to sit with him and watch baseball. The next morning Parker decides he might as well start training Hachi, and tries to teach him to fetch a ball, but Hachi isn't really interested in the ball at all. Andy joins them, and they start playing as a family. Kate sees this. Her family is in love with the puppy, so she gives in and decides to keep Hachi in the house. The dog is now a part of the family. Parker leaves for work one day, and Hachi decides to follow him, so he digs a hole under the fence and follows Parker to the station. The professor sees Hachi and asks him to go back home, but this is a stubborn little doggy and decides to keep on following him. Parker misses the train, but he has to take Hachi back home and close the passage Hachi made on the ground. He leaves the dog with Kate, and it's a good opportunity to bond together as she finally accepts Hachi to come inside the house. In the evening as the train whistle blows, Hachi hears it and runs back to the station to wait for his Parker. The professor is surprised to see Hachi in the train station as the dog runs into his arms. Parker goes on to ask Jazjeet, the hot dog seller, if Hachi has been waiting for him since the morning. To make the surprise bigger, the seller tells him that the dog had just arrived. Hachi knew which train and the time Parker would come back and arrive at the station just to greet him. One day Andy brings her boyfriend Michael home to meet her family and introduces him to Hachi. Michael tries to play a little with Hachi, and Parker tells him that it's useless, he doesn't fetch the ball. When Parker goes to meet Ken again and talks about Hachi, he tells Parker that it's a very special dog, and won't do things just to please people nor win any prize for training. If he's ever to fetch the ball it would be for a special reason, Ken tells Parker. The professor and the dog form a very special bond with each other as they spend more time together. They go together to the train station where Parker boards to go to work, and when he returns home every day at 5 p.m. Hachi comes back to the station to receive him. Everybody that worked in or around the station, Jazjeet, Marianne the librarian, and the railway clerk, begin to notice this situation and start to embrace Hachi at the station. The welcoming situation is a warm image every day at the station after all. The time passes, and Andy gets married to Michael, and Hachi even gets to attend the wedding as a family member and appears in the photos. Parker and Hachi's routine continues as they grow even closer. This is a real bond they share. One day Andy comes home with the news that she's pregnant, and her parents congratulate her. They are surprised, and even Hachi observes their happiness. Soon, Parker and Kate celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary and spend time together sharing their love. The morning after the anniversary, Parker gets ready for work, but Hachi is behaving strangely. He doesn't let him prepare. Parker tries to calm the dog, but he doesn't understand what's got Hachi so agitated. He even asks Hachi to come with him when he's ready, but Hachi just won't move. This is all too strange. When Parker is leaving for work, Hachi goes to the shed and grabs his ball. He then runs to the station where Parker is still waiting for him. In the station, Parker is surprised. Hachi fetched the ball for the first time. They start playing with the ball for a while and having fun together. He even tells the clerk about it and gets congratulated. Jasjeet hands him a coffee, and Parker is ready to leave. The train is here, but Hachi is barking. He clearly doesn't want Parker to leave and runs to him. But Parker has to leave, so Hachi just sits there in the station waiting for him. In his class, as Parker is talking to his students, he feels strange. He takes a seat for a moment, with Hachi's ball in his hand, and falls down. He had a fatal stroke and passed away right there. Hachiko waits for him at the station, but Parker does not return. He's late. It's 9:30 p.m. and everyone leaves the station, but Hachi is still waiting. Michael arrives to take him home. Hachi observes how everyone is crying at home, for Parker is gone. Andy tries to talk with Hachi, but the dog seemingly ignores her. He's shocked. As the entire family goes to Parker's funeral, Hachi just goes to the station and waits for him until nighttime again. Even the clerk sees poor Hachi waiting, and tells him he has to wait for Parker no more. He's not coming back anymore. But he sees that Hachi is determined. He'll sit there and wait for Parker to return. After the funeral, Kate packs her belongings and leaves the house. Meanwhile, Andy and Michael come with their little son Ronnie to take Hachi with them. At Kate's house, Ronnie tries to play with Hachi, but the little dog isn't interested in anything like that, and he escapes from the house. Hachi follows the railway tracks to make it back to the Bedridge station and sits in his usual spot to wait for Parker's return. He also tries going back to their house, but he's surprised by the new owners and runs away, going back to the station. He comes back to the station, and back there Jasjeet feeds him a little. Andy and Michael come looking for him at the station and thank everyone and take him home. She understands how Hachi feels. She also misses her father. As she sees Hachi's determination, she understands that he just wants to go back, so she lets him free to go there again. Hachi licks her hands. He's thankful for everything, and runs back to his spot at the station. This place in the station is his new home, and every day he sits there and waits for Parker's return. Every day, the people that pass through the station pet him and bring him food. They all take care of him. One day even a reporter comes up and interviews people around Hachi, as he's become popular with the people around for this routine. The clerk tells the entire story, and it's published in the newspaper. People read the story and start sending him cards, gifts, and money. Even Parker's friend Ken reads the article and comes to visit Hachi at the station. He offers to give them some money to help cover Hachi's expenses, but Jasjeet lets him know that everybody takes good care of Hachi. He's become an iconic part of the community there. Ken speaks to Hachi in Japanese, telling him that he understands how he feels and that he misses his friend too. Time passes, the stations change, days come and go, even years, but Hachi won't give up. He wants to see his owner coming back. On the 10th anniversary of Parker's death, Kate comes back to town and visits Parker's grave. She meets Ken there. Ken takes her back to the station, where old little Hachi is still waiting for Parker's return. She goes and gives the good doggy a big, warm hug and begins to cry. The little boy has spent all these years waiting for his friend to come back. Hachi has been suffering, but he's still there waiting for Parker to return. Kate goes back to the house and decides to show Ronnie the family photo album and tell him the stories about Hachi and Parker. In the station, Hachi is still looking at the train door as it arrives. He watches and waits for Parker to get off the train. He's remembering the good times he's had with Parker. On Christmas Eve, Hachi feels as if Parker has come out of the door, and rushes to embrace him, but it was just his imagination. At the present time, when Ronnie is giving his presentation, he calls Hachi his hero. He taught him what it means to be loyal and to love. The entire class is excited about the story and applauds him. As the classes end and Ronnie goes out off the bus and home, his dad Michael is waiting for him with a puppy. He calls him Hachi, as they walk down the same railway track as good ol' Hachi once did. The movie is based on the real story of the dog Hachiko, who lived in Japan in the early past century. He waited at the station for his master Dr. Isaburo Ueno, a professor at Tokyo University, who died in 1925 and never came back. Hachiko waited for 9 years for his return to the station until he too passed away. Subscribe for more engaging videos like this. Let's hit the bell icon and be the first to watch, like and comment.